So there is no point debating race with the left, right? Because the game is rigged from the start. You cannot win because they have defined the terms of the debate so that you are definitionally wrong and they are definitionally right. And to use an example of this in action, we are going to use a video that Peter Whittle put up on the New Culture Forum, debating some race activist, some grifter.
So racist.
Yeah. Explicitly, actually. But we'll get to that. Because she knows, and you can tell by the attitude, right? A lot of a debate, right? You don't even need to listen to it to see who's winning a debate. You just look at the expressions on the faces of the people. Look at the body language, look at the mannerisms. Look at who's smiling during the debate, who has the person on the hook, and who's being reeled in. And that's exactly why you don't need to do this. But before we begin, go and check out the symposium I did with Stelios on John Rawls' view on justice. I think John Rawls is absolutely atrocious, and everything he said was nonsense, frankly. But then that's because I'm a cynical post-liberal, and I've realised that actually his original position is BS. The veil of ignorance is BS, and I could go on and on, but go and watch that. But the reason this matters is because essentially all of this comes down to Rawls' original position. Well, in an ideal, perfect world, and you could choose the kind of society you'd be born into, would you choose this one where there may be injustices? It's like, when has that ever happened, John? When have I got to do that? No, well, you can't do that. But that's why we need to reformat all of society to fit this utopian daydream. And that's where all of the arguments from the left are coming from at this point. I'm just like, no, don't care.
I always hate this. Like, you might be born to any country. No, you wouldn't.
Nope.
You were literally only going to be born to the one you're born in.
Yep.
Because your parents decide to have.
Yep. The liberal argument that underpins it as well is it's arbitrary, it's random who you're born to. No, it's necessary.
No, it's
it's
highly predictable.
Yeah, exactly. It's direct lineal necessity.
I mean, sometimes we don't know who the father is.
There is that.
That's about it.
But the child is still going to be born to the mother, and that's the lineal descent that we can track. Anyway, so it begins with the RAF not hiring white men, which we talked about. You think would be bad. I mean, literally offering jobs. There's an effective pause on offering jobs to white male recruits in favour of women and ethnic minorities.
But be sure, every white man in the British military, to die for your country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't really enlist.
No, I wouldn't either. The reason they did this is because they're trying to meet, quote, impossible diversity targets. Admiral Saturni Radakin, head of the armed forces, used his first public speech in post last December to stress the importance of striving for better diversity. He said this was not about wokefulness, it's about woefulness. The woefulness of too few women, the woefulness of not reflecting ethnic, religious, and cognitive diversity of our nation. Oh, I love that, cognitive diversity.
What does that mean?
That means there are a bunch of
quota.
Exactly. We need a retard quota, and you don't fit the retard quota, and so you do not fit the cognitive diversity of our nation.
Just every year, one of the planes just crashes as soon as it takes off. Well, that's the quota.
I hope I'm not on that plane, but I love it. It's not about wokefulness, but it is about wokefulness, actually. Okay, fine. And when challenged on this, they were like, "No, we're unashamed of this discrimination. Actually, we're not." What do you mean? Why would you say we're doing something wrong? Obviously, we're doing something right. We've got a retard
We need
quota.
the autism division, or where would we be as a country, really?
This is the Guardian. The woman in charge of the RAF recruitment says she is unashamed of a policy that critics claim could mean women and people from ethnic minorities being prioritised over white men.
Yeah.
If that was a man saying, "No, I'm unashamed of prioritising white men over women and ethnic minorities," all hell, the sky would fall. Rivers would boil with blood. Mountains would explode. Fields on fire. It would be the end of the world. But if someone else of a different group says, "No, I'm going to benefit my group of which I'm a member," so me, of course, in particular, and my fellow group constituency, everyone's just like, "Well, I mean, it's against the law, but what can we do?"
Have you noticed that we're living in the British Raj?
No.
As in, like,
well, I mean,
the majority group are not to be promoted. Instead, the minority ethnicity should be the one ruling the place.
That's a good point.
I mean, our own government's saying it. And if you're in the army serving that, I mean, I'd be like, yeah, nah. Don't really want to fight for the Raj?
Yeah.
Like some Indian independence?
Air Vice Marshal Myra Byford said she had slowed down the recruitment process for all candidates after figures showed the RF was not hitting diversity targets. Who set these diversity targets? Maria, sorry. But anyway, there's a reason that we don't have the most diverse air force in the world. And that's because their helmets are literally too heavy for the women to hold on their heads when they're flying around in the F-35 jets.
We went over this. It's the eject seat. Well, if you eject and the helmet's too heavy for your weight, it will actually damage you. So we can't do that because it's unsafe.
I mean, I don't know what we can do about it. Complain about gravity?
No, the solution was to buy the new generation of helmets that are made to not have that problem.
Oh, brilliant.
They are an extra like 200 grand each.
Great.
So that's an extra 200 grand per diversity
It's
hire.
200 grand from white men.
Yeah.
Not my problem. But anyway, obviously, Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wigston said that a more pressing concern was that women were not being trained as pilots, pointing to a woeful gender diversity problem in the RAF. Is it a problem, though?
More women should be dying, or I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Says local man.
And so, unsurprisingly, China actually doesn't...
Serial killer or military official?
China doesn't care about any of this. And it's like, well, we'll take your top pilots if you want. And that's a good point by the New York Times, which I'm sad to say. Is that wise? Is it wise to give China our top talent? Well, who cares?
Yes.
So anyway, this was debated on GB News, and the New Culture Forum put it up on their channel, and I thought we'd just go through a few clips of this. Now, it's Peter Whittle, who I like very much, and I think does a good job, but I have to be honest, he did lose this debate because of the terms of the debate itself. It was pre-packaged that he would lose this debate, and he lost it to Iman Aiton, who's a 31-year-old South Londoner, average London person.
What have they done with their life?
Well, as she says on her website, she came to prominence during the Black Lives Matter protests on the 31st of May 2020, organising several protests, including one with 20,000 people in attendance. She's become a motivational speaker and racism thought leader. So she's leading thoughts in racism. In the process, has been globally recognised due to her extensive media coverage. She's dedicated to black equality and tackling racism. She seeks to build awareness about how all forms of racism manifest in the UK, including institutionalised racism.
Member of the status quo.
Yes.
You ran a protest movement endorsed by every company and their mother.
Yes.
Good job. Very hard. Peter Whittle was in opposition as a politician for years.
Yes.
But no, you've done something.
She continues to motivate the UK
Does she?
and inspire change
She motivates us all.
with anti-racism seminars, talks, workshops, and articles and community initiatives. She's not affiliated with Black Lives Matter, though. She makes a point of stressing this on her website. You get to the next one.
I do have their signs, but I have nothing to do with those thieves.
Scroll down. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly what she says, right? Even though the term Black Lives Matter has global recognition, it's important to note that the movement is made up of many groups, organisations, and individuals who, while possessing a single commitment to black equality and justice, do not automatically share the same political ideologies. Iman has not at any point worked for or been a part of the organisations known as BLM UK or UK BLM, and is not affiliated with any BLM group or organisation in the UK or globally.
I know.
I'm not a thief.
I have nothing to do with any mansions. I don't know.
Exactly. What a toxic brand if someone can literally be like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but I mean, I'm not with them. Like, I mean, I didn't steal any of the money.
I am a member of the Ku Klux Klan, but not them. So, no, you need to drop the name, love.
The point being, as I have explained many times on lotuseast.com, she is a critical race theorist, and the important points from critical race theory, which we are about to see from her, are the explicit embrace of positioned race consciousness. As in, this is...
Like military doctrine?
No, this is literally the Ku Klux Klan for black people.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. It is, and she is unashamed about this, of course. And the way that they justify this is by expanding racism to mean two different and contradictory things at once, as we discussed in this. Remember, they have the narrow view of racism, which is the view of racism that the average liberal holds, which is racism is discrimination against someone on the basis of their race. And then you have the expanded view of racism, Kimberly Crenshaw coined, which is the racism of consequence, as in, if black people don't have jobs, then they earn less money, and that's a form of racism.
Solid logic.
Let's begin.
This is a bit of a non-PC question to ask,
Yes.
but do you think, with the diversity and inclusion drive, we're actually starting to discriminate against white men?
I don't mean to be mean, but
I know, she's like an extra from Love Actually, right? She's got that kind of early 2000s vibe to her, right?
Yeah.
And it's just
Nice
like,
girl.
yeah, exactly.
That's the vibe I get.
Exactly. Just total.
Don't you think things are going a bit wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Just like a minnow in a tank of sharks, right?
Yeah.
Just like, aren't we eating too many of the fellow fish? It's like literally the sharks, like from Finding Nemo or something, right? And so it's just this total innocence and airheadedness about the question. And it's not a badly intentioned person, I'm sure, but like
Just the way it was asked.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know who you are dealing with at all. So let's see the answer to that.
Okay, so what I will say is this conversation that we're actually having is about race equity. And that very much connects to positive discrimination. That's the only way that you can achieve race equity. So I just want to make it very clear. Positive discrimination and negative discrimination achieve the exact same result. And so whilst these initiatives are excellent and more than welcome, as you can tell, they also alienate other races and marginalised communities that also feel aggrieved, and that can cause extra tension. And so for me personally, this comes down to the path of least resistance, okay? So organisations find it a lot easier to turn race equality into tick boxing and tokenism as opposed to changing an entire culture. And that is where the problem lies. And so for me personally, if you have a culture of prejudice, it's quite clear that you're going to need quotas. And so if you didn't have the culture of prejudice, you wouldn't need quotas. And so for me personally, I don't need a quota from a white person. What I need is for white people to get out of our way. And so, in other words, work on your prejudice and you won't need quotas.
Now that sounds like a threat.
She
doesn't it?
literally just said, well, yes, it is racist, and that is good. And get out of our way. Don't you think that things are going a bit mad?
See what I mean? She's asking with the sort of Love Actually sort of openness, and this person is responding with a thinly veiled threat.
One day, white people might be discriminated against.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for years. Get out of our way.
And notice how she
Anyway,
said,
moving on to the next
other yeah, exactly. Other racial groups who might feel aggrieved, and it's like, well, aren't you giving the white people themselves a reason to feel aggrieved here? And you're saying, well, the only reason we need to do this is because of prejudice. And it's like, yes, okay, but what are you presenting if not prejudice?
Sorry, who's the prejudiced in the room here?
Exactly.
So I hate white people and they shouldn't have the same opportunities. This is only happening because of prejudice.
And other groups that will feel aggrieved will demand quotas of their own. And so, right, okay, so when the white people have been sufficiently discriminated against, they will have a grievance that will require a quota. And you're like, yeah, so get out of our way. Okay. This doesn't seem very wise.
I look forward to the white quota.
But like, also notice what's been sort of presumed here and what's normalized in this worldview, right? She is acting as if she's entitled to the RAF, to the fruits of what Britain produced.
Your entire civilization belongs to us. Why? Because I've thought about it.
Because I have a grievance. I feel like you've been discriminating against me.
There's no evidence for it, but it is
No, of
scientific
course.
fact.
No. So, look at the attitude with the way that's delivered, right? It's who holds the whip hand here? Who is in charge? Who is the one who's the law is going to back when it comes to the crunch? She knows she is in charge. And so she's got the sort of predatory aspect of a serpent playing with a mouse. And doesn't the woman in the middle have very much the demeanor of a mouse?
Shouldn't I have some rights?
She's not dangerous in any way, shape, or form, but this woman knows she is dangerous. She knows she has the power. She knows the institutions are behind her. She knows that the dominant aristocratic culture is behind her. She knows that she deserves, for being black, what you do not deserve for being white. That's what this is. So let's play the next clip.
Out of the way!
Yes.
Peter, you need to get out the way!
Yes.
Why is she smiling? Look at that stupid smile. You have just been told, under no uncertain conditions, that you are being racially overthrown by this black activist because you are white. And all she can do is be like, that's crazy, isn't it, Peter? Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's not funny. Like,
No, this is sincere.
Like, what we're watching with the RAF. I mean, in the beginning of this segment, she explains the RAF thing and says that this was found to have broken the law. This is illegal discrimination. And this serpent is like, no, we're going to keep doing it until you own nothing because you are white and we are black. So why are we listening to the black KKK? Why are you giving the black KKK a platform?
Because the black KKK are in charge.
Exactly. As if this demand will not eventually be made at your own job. And the thing is, I think the smile conceals a lot of fear. Because ultimately, you know that they're going to come for you eventually because you also have the wrong skin color. Now, I have to say, I still don't want skin color to be a political category. I just don't want it. I just don't want politics based on race. I've never wanted it, and I still don't want it. And yet this is like the mainstream. This is what...
Oh, yeah, you totally lost.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm totally lost. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was younger. I was watching your videos, being like, "Yeah, maybe this should go away one day." Now I'm here, and it's no. This is the complete norm.
Why don't we agree not to have race politics? Well, too late. It's way too late.
One day this will be in every school in the land," said Simon of a Captain.
Yeah, and was I wrong? Anyway, let's watch the next clip.
Well, no, I mean, I find this very, very worrying, actually, because the implication behind a lot of these initiatives, including the Labour one that you referred to there, is that Britain is structurally racist. I don't believe that for a moment. I think it's an insult, actually. I think we are one of the least racist countries. And what this does, it builds on that assumption, which is a wrong assumption. And essentially it's saying the only way this can be rectified is by some form of positive, you mentioned the word positive discrimination, which actually means prioritising, making preferential treatment for one ethnic group.
Now, Peter is giving the liberal definition of racism, right? Not the expanded definition of racism. When he says we are one of the least racist countries, he's right. We don't look at a person and say that person's black, that person's white, that person's green, whatever, and discriminate based on the colour of their skin. He's absolutely right. We don't do that, and that does make us one of the least racist countries. But she's using the expanded definition of racism, and then she's saying, well, look, there are
differences, ergo racism.
Exactly. Ergo, therefore, racism. In fact, therefore, institutional, congenital racism that is located in the country. Britain appears to have been taken over by the black KKK, frankly, and the ideology of the black KKK. And all that Peter understandably finds this completely worrying, and justly so, but he's trapped within their paradigm now, and she is in fact 2 steps ahead of him, because in the next clip you'll see how Peter falls into her trap. Let's watch.
There are 15%, I think, ethnic minority in this country. Why does it not talk about, Southeast Asian? Why does it not talk about East Asian?
So you don't disagree with me? So you don't disagree, Peter?
This is very strange.
You don't disagree.
But the point is this. We end up in situations like the one that you mentioned, Emily, where we've had 160 white guys negatively discriminated against this week. We also end up with situations which, for example, again was reported this week, where the police in London are so intent on getting up their diversity numbers that, in fact, some people now working for them are, in fact, functionally illiterate in English because they are so determined to get this diversity quota up. Now, the fact is, shouldn't it all be about merit and talent?
So I think that's a very interesting segment there, because you can see that Peter initially begins, well, why is it just for black people and why not for the rest? And she's like, well, that's perfect, because you've agreed to my premises. And now, yes, you are right. I was starting with black people, but of course I'll expand this to everyone who's not white, because this is the point of this. And so he realizes he's been wrong-footed, and he readjusts to returns to, well, what I'm just going to describe as the British prejudice in favor of merit and talent. But she doesn't agree with this, because to her, that is, she'll call it a white prejudice, right? It's obviously not, but that's how she'd define it, because that's what the British culture prefers, because he cares about standards. But her standards are different to his. So she is a racial supremacist, as she's already explained at the beginning of the segment. So for her, the worst black man is more meritorious than the best white man because of the colour of their skin, because it is merely about the levels and the numbers of blacks and whites in any given system. She's already explained this.
The positive negative thing's just really annoying me, because I'm just imagining, I don't know. Let's take Poland, right? Like, if you're just exterminating loads of Ukrainians, that's negative discrimination. But if you're exterminating loads of Poles, that's positive discrimination, because you're getting rid of the majority.
Same result.
It's just the once you realise what you're saying,
Yeah.
What is this positive negative nonsense?
Well,
It's just a way of saying it's
you
good.
you can advance one group or reduce another group, but the result is the same. The tide is turning in the favor of one and not the other, and that's what she's saying. And
But
that's
the,
what
the
she's
terms positive and negatives are obviously just applied to whatever you feel. Like the
Well, yeah.
Nazis can sit there and be like, well, it's positive ethnic cleansing.
well,
you're a
no.
lunatic.
The Nazis would say that advancing German families and interests is positive discrimination, and the negative discrimination is the Holocaust.
Writes itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's what she's saying, because that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And the thing is, like I said, Peter can't appeal to merit because he holds a different set of standards to her, and so she will just openly deny it, and she knows she's got this sewn up, as you can see in this next smug reply.
So I just want to address one of your points. I have to put this RAF into context, okay? So the Armed Services Ombudsman has repeatedly highlighted concerns about the fact that women and ethnic minorities account for a disproportionate amount of bullying, harassment and discrimination within the military. So racism and discrimination has already taken place, hence the need for quotas. This is where we are right now, Peter. That's the reality of the situation.
Look at that attitude. Just look at that attitude.
I can do what I want all the time.
Because I'm black and you're white, because you're a racist. I mean, a racist country wouldn't have a black person on TV.
No.
It probably wouldn't have black people in it. And if they did, they would be...
Kind of the point.
Yeah, exactly. They would be segregated and ostracized and never given this kind of voice. But you can see the way she's approaching it. Listen, Peter, we have to have quotas because you're just not getting that I'm in charge and you're not. That's what she's saying. The tone of voice shows who holds the power in this conversation. And she knows it. Because Peter is not arguing against the intrinsic injustice of racial discrimination. And she wins on this level. Because she'll say, well, look, as she points out, the institution of the armed forces has found that the minorities are disproportionately racially bullied, or whatever it was. And so, therefore, the black supremacist ideology is legitimized to take revenge. The liberals are no more morally justified than she is, because she's already established you've already committed the wrong. And so I'm justified in taking my revenge by committing the same wrong back at you. That's her argument. And she's saying it with insane smugness because it's a winning move. She knows she's being dishonest here, but Peter is trapped in a dialectic he can't win, right? The institution isn't the thing discriminating when individuals within the institution are, say, bullying a black person or a woman or something like that, right? If the institution didn't have an ombudsman that was like, if there was no court of appeal and the institution was like, why are you coming to me? You're black, get out. Then you'd be like, okay, well, that's a racist institution. But the institution has a self-policing mechanism that is designed to deal with individuals who are racist within it. That's what she's appealing to. She's appealing to the fact that it's not a racist institution. To call it a racist institution to justify the racism she wishes to perpetuate against white people. That's how she's got Peter. So that's why she can be so smug. Peter is trapped within this conversation now, and he's got nowhere else to go. And so let's just watch the end of it, because you can see that Peter now, he's been outmaneuvered by her. And I don't blame him, because this is a difficult thing to catch on the fly. Like, she's very well versed in how she's got him. Let's watch this clip.
You believe Britain is structurally racist, right? You're not going to deny that. No, it is not. That is a massive, massive
Do you understand that every human being has
untruth.
prejudice? Okay,
It is an
so do you
untruth.
understand that every human being
It is
has
an untruth,
prejudice? Is that
Iman.
something that you understand, Peter?
No,
Is that something
you're
that you
not
understand?
playing this. I'm not going to play
Do
your
you
game.
understand that
I'm
every
not
human
playing your
being
game.
has prejudice?
Right.
Do you understand that? Just
This
ask
is
the
a
question.
form.
Is that something that you understand?
This is a form.
Just answer
This
the
will be a
question,
form of
Peter.
state racism
Please
in a way.
answer the
You
question.
do
You
not
understand
fight
that every human
racism
being
with
has
other
prejudice.
racism.
Prejudice is the
Right, you
foundation
wouldn't
for all
want-
forms of structural racism and any other discrimination, including racism, misogyny, sexism, and
These are cliches.
etc.
These are just cliches you're mouthing.
That's a fact.
So you can see here that she says, well, I don't know why the video didn't work there, but they have quite a heated argument. But you can see in her face that she's just like, no, I've won. I've won this. And Peter has to be like, well, I'm not going to play your game. It's like, well, unfortunately, it's too late. She's been playing her game the whole time. And you got to this point why you were even discussing it. Because when she's like, do you understand that every human being is prejudiced? Okay, what are your prejudices? That's how you win that. You have to turn it back and go, what are your prejudice? And she has to be like, well, against white men. So, well, there we go. If it's just a game of whose prejudice do we care about, why would anyone care about your prejudice over their own prejudices? You can't appeal to someone's biases, and because a person literally only has their own bias to judge it by. And so it's quite mad, to be honest. She is obviously a racist against white people, but of course she is. She's a critical race theorist. But anyway, I think that was just an instructive lesson on who is in charge in these conversations and why you have to be very, very careful with them. Again, I wasn't like, in no way I was trying to belittle Peter or anything like that. I don't blame him for coming off the worse for this conversation because it's dishonest. It's rigged from the start. He can't win it.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on how to spot a liar. If you'd like to find out what else the Lotus Eaters are putting out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.